Story 1. On the map of Washington State, just north of the Cascades, there is a small circle labeled Black Pines. Except it shouldn't be there. Because according to state records, census logs, county archives, and every living person within a 100-mile radius, Black Pines burned to the ground in 1984 and was never rebuilt. But last month, a Seattle-based hiking vlogger named Trina Vale, age 26, uploaded a video titled, "I found a town that doesn't know it's dead." The video was only 8 minutes. It was shaky, panicked, and ended with a scream. It reached 3.2 million views in 20 hours. And then, without warning, her channel vanished. The video vanished. And Trina Vale vanished too. Her sister, Marissa Vale, refuses to accept that Trina simply ran off. Because the last 30 seconds of that video, captured before YouTube ripped it down, show Trina stumbling backward on a cracked main street as dozens of people in old-fashioned clothing turn their heads toward her in perfect unison. Marissa swears she saw something else in the reflection of a store window behind Trina. Something tall. Something that wasn't shaped like a person. And now, she's going to find the town that officially does not exist. Marissa Vale had watched the final 30 seconds of her sister's vanished video so many times she could recite it frame by frame. That last, frantic moment, the one YouTube managed to scrub from the internet, lived in her brain like a parasite. The clip began with Trina's breath frosting in the cold air as she jogged backward down a street that looked like it had been ripped straight out of 1978. The storefront windows were filled with sun-faded products. Gas was marked at $1.14 a gallon. A rotary payphone sat on a crooked wooden post. People, maybe 50 of them, lined the sidewalks. They wore clothes from another decade. They didn't blink. They didn't even sway. They just stared. Then, all at once, every head turned toward her sister. Marissa saw the pupils. Bottomless. Too wide. The scream at the end wasn't what bothered her most. It was the shape behind Trina. A figure in the reflection of an antique TV shop window. Too tall, too narrow, its shoulders rising like broken rake handles. No face, no neck, just a smear of darkness where a head should be. After that came static. Then the video ended forever. Marissa stood alone in her tiny Seattle apartment now, the city groaning under an October storm. Wind clawed the windows. The lights flickered. She had work in the morning, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the storm was a warning, not weather. She played the clip again. Not from YouTube. From the ripped bootleg a stranger emailed her before disappearing. Trina's voice, ragged and small, echoed from her laptop. "I don't think they like me being here." Then the turning heads. Then the reflection. Then the scream. Marissa closed the laptop and rubbed her eyes until they burned. She had 3 siblings growing up. But Trina, wild, curious, addicted to adventure, was the one who'd kept her sane. They shared secrets, dreams, fights, inside jokes no one else understood. They'd survived 2 neglectful parents, a tiny rented room with a moldy ceiling, and the kind of childhood you grow out of only by sheer defiance. Trina was the one who got out first. And now she was gone. The police shrugged off her disappearance as voluntary absence. The forest rangers insisted no town existed where Trina claimed. The state archives labeled Black Pines a historical casualty, burned down 40 years ago, uninhabited since. Marissa didn't believe any of it. She reached for the folder on her kitchen table, the one she'd been building for 3 weeks. Inside were printed screenshots of the video, a highway map, a list of possible trailheads, and a single sheet of paper with a hand-drawn circle around the gray blur where Black Pines should have been. All she had were rumors. Rumors of hikers seeing smoke up north when no seasonal burns were scheduled. Rumors of voices echoing through the tree line long after sunset. Rumors of someone walking out of the woods in old-fashioned clothing, confused, asking which year it was. Rumors. But Trina was real. And so was her scream. Something buzzed on the counter, her phone. A known number. She stared at it, hesitating. It buzzed again. She answered. A man's voice trembling. "Is this Marissa?" Her throat tightened. "Yes. Who is this?" "I shouldn't be calling. They monitor." "Who?" a long breath. The man sounded terrified. "You're looking for your sister, right?" Her pulse surged. She leaned against the counter. "Do you know where she is?" "No," he whispered. "But I know where she went." Finally, someone was breaking the silence. "What's your name?" she asked gently. "I can't say. If they hear me..." "Who is they?" He swallowed audibly. "The town. Black Pines. It's not like other places. You need to forget about it." Marissa's chest tightened. "I'm not forgetting anything." "You don't understand," the man said, voice shaking harder. "People they don't leave there. They don't even know they're not supposed to be there. The families, the children, they don't age. They don't change. They don't remember the fire. They don't remember dying." A cold ripple crawled down Marissa's spine. This man was either insane, or he knew something. "How do you know this?" she demanded. "Because I lived there," he whispered, "until I escaped." Her hand slipped, and she nearly dropped the phone. "If you escaped," she said slowly, "you can help me." "No," he snapped, panic sharp. "I can't go near those woods again. I saw your sister. She passed me on the trail that day. She was filming. She was excited. She said she'd heard the rumors. She said she wanted proof. I warned her she'd find more than she wanted." Marissa closed her eyes. "Where should I search?" A strangled breath. "There's an old road. It shouldn't be there. You'll know it when you see it. Follow it to the end, and then turn back. Don't step inside the crossing. Don't." A sharp click cut off the voice. Then nothing but dead air. "Hello? Hello?" The call had ended. Marissa stared at her phone as the storm raged outside, the wind rattling the windows like desperate fingers. Her heart pounded. Her stomach twisted. The man's terror sounded real. Too real. She replayed his words in her mind. People don't leave there. They don't age. They don't remember dying. It didn't make sense. None of it. But her instincts, the same instincts Trina always followed, told her one thing. She had to go. Before whatever swallowed Trina swallowed the truth too. She grabbed her coat, her waterproof backpack, her car keys. On the way out the door, she paused by the dusty framed photo on the wall, her and Trina on a camping trip 10 years ago, arms around each other, grinning like idiots. Their lives had been chaos then, but they'd been together. "I'm coming," she whispered. By the time she reached Highway 2, the storm had intensified. Pine trees thrashed wildly on either side of the road. Rain slapped the windshield with brutal force. Her wipers struggled. Her GPS blinked uncertainly, recalibrating again and again. "Come on," she muttered. "Just give me something." But no map, digital or physical, showed Black Pines. She'd have to rely on the folder of clues and her own stubbornness. She followed the winding roads north toward the Cascades. The deeper she drove, the darker it felt, like the headlights were pushing against something thicker than normal air. She reached the first trailhead 2 hours later. The small wooden parking sign creaked in the wind. No other cars. No hikers. No sound but the storm. She pulled over and checked her notes again. According to the anonymous caller, if he even was real, the entrance wasn't an official trail. It was a road that shouldn't be there. A road only visible to those searching for it. Marissa tightened her coat around her shoulders and stepped out into the icy air. The wind punched her sideways. She steadied herself and swept her flashlight across the tree line. Roots. Fallen branches. Nothing. She exhaled, breath trembling. Then, as she took one more step forward, her flashlight beam caught something pale in the distance. A wooden post. She moved closer, boots sinking in the soft mud. The post was old. Weather-beaten. Splintered. A piece of rusted metal hung crookedly from a nail, what used to be a small road sign, now blank. Beside it, half hidden by creeping moss, was a paved road. A road completely invisible unless you were standing right in front of it. It stretched into the woods like a black ribbon swallowed by trees. Her flashlight flickered. The forest seemed to hold its breath. "This has to be it," she whispered. She remembered the man's warning. "Follow the road to the end, and then turn back. Don't step inside the crossing." Whatever the crossing meant, it didn't matter. She wasn't turning back. She took her first step onto the road. Her ears popped. The wind stopped instantly. Completely. The storm noise vanished. The silence that replaced it was unnatural, thick, suffocating, absolute. Marissa froze, breath caught in her throat. Behind her, the storm still raged on the highway. She could see rain thrashing the tree line. But none of it reached the road. The air around her was unnervingly still. She took another step. Then another. The darkness ahead seemed to move, like shadows climbing over each other. Her flashlight dimmed again. She realized, with a sudden jolt of fear, that she no longer heard her own footsteps. Not a crunch of gravel. Not a brush of fabric. As if the road refused to let sound exist. A faint glow appeared in the distance, like lantern light flickering behind a veil of darkness. Marissa's heart hammered. Buildings. Streets. Ships. A town. Standing exactly where no town should be. Black pines. Standing untouched. Standing alive. As if 40 years hadn't passed at all. As if no fire had ever burned it down. She took a shaky breath and stepped forward, and then she heard it. A single sound. Not from the trees. Not from the road. Not from the town. A whisper. Right behind her ear. You shouldn't have come alone. Marissa spun around, but no one was there. Only the empty, impossible road stretching back toward the storm. She swallowed hard and turned forward again. The glow of black pines pulsed gently, inviting her deeper. She tightened her grip on her flashlight. Then, with one final breath, she crossed the boundary the man on the phone told her to avoid. And the temperature dropped so sharply it stabbed her lungs. The lights flickered. The ground vibrated. A low, distant hum filled the air, something between a chant and an engine. She stepped into black pines. And behind her, the road vanished. Not faded. Not dimmed. Vanished. As if she had never arrived by road at all. As if the town had swallowed its only entrance. Marissa's breath hitched. The glow brightened. Then she heard the last sound she expected. Children laughing. And somewhere, impossibly close, Trina's voice. Singing. A lullaby they shared as kids. Off-key. So, wrong. Marissa's knees weakened. Trina? But her sister did not answer. Not yet. The first thing Marissa noticed as she stepped into black pines wasn't the buildings. It was the air. It felt stale. Like a movie set that hadn't been opened in decades. No breeze. No rustling leaves. No scents, no pine, no soil, no damp after-storm smell. Just dry, unmoving stillness. Her boots pressed onto pavement that looked too clean. Not fresh, just untouched, as if no car had driven over it since 1984. The lines on the road were faded to a pale ghost yellow, like the sun had bleached them from the inside out. Black pines spread before her like a snapshot of a different age, storefronts with hand-painted signs, gas pumps with metal dials, a diner with a neon sign that glowed a dim, flickering blue. Nothing moved. Except the children. They stood in a line on the sidewalk 3 buildings down, facing away from her. 5 of them, all between 6 and 10 years old, wearing stiff, old-fashioned clothes, wool coats, tiny suspenders, dresses with lace collars. Their hands hung at their sides. Their backs were straight, too straight. Marissa swallowed hard. Her flashlight beam wavered. The children began to sway. Just a slow, gentle rocking, left, right, perfectly in sync. No voice. No music. No visible breath in the cold air. Her pulse hammered. One child stopped. Still facing away. Slowly, with unnatural stiffness, his head turned, far too far, until his chin almost touched his shoulder, revealing a face stretched in a wide, vacant smile. His eyes were black. Not pupil. Not iris. All black. He stared at her with that frozen smile, jerking his head the last 30 degrees with a soft crack. The other children turned too. 5 eerie smiles. 5 pairs of bottomless eyes. Marissa staggered back. One child lifted his hand and pointed behind her. She whipped around instinctively. Only empty buildings greeted her. A post office. A A library. A dark street. When she turned back, the children were gone. Not walking away. Not running. Gone. A cold wave of dread washed through her. "What is this place?" she whispered. A voice answered from the porch of the diner. "It's home." Marissa spun. A woman stood under the diner's awning, holding a pie tin like she just stepped out of a 1950s commercial. Blonde curls. Polka dot dress. Apron tied neat as a bow. Her smile was warm, bright, welcoming, almost too perfect. "Are you new?" the woman asked cheerfully. "We don't get new faces often." Marissa forced a swallow. I'm looking for my sister." "Oh," the woman chirped, stepping down from the porch. "Family. We love family around here." Something about her voice felt hollow. Like a recording of a real person, not the person herself. Marissa took a small step back. "Her name is Trina. She came here a few weeks ago." The woman's smile remained absolutely unchanged, frozen in place. "Oh," she repeated. "Family." Marissa's throat tightened. "Yes," she whispered. "Family." More figures appeared. Across the street, a man in suspenders sweeping the front of a hardware store. On a balcony, an elderly couple holding hands, staring down at her with identical smiles. Further up the road, a teen boy tossing a baseball in a slow, repetitive arc, catching it without ever looking at his hand. One by one, they stopped what they were doing, turned toward her, and smiled. Every pair of eyes in the town was on her. Something was deeply wrong with their faces, too smooth, too symmetrical, almost mannequin-like. Every smile was the same height, the same width, the same frozen friendliness. A chill snaked down her spine. "Have you seen my sister?" she asked again, her voice shaking. The woman cocked her head. Something clicked in her neck. "Oh, honey," she said sweetly. "We've seen so many people. But they all stay a while. Why don't you come inside? You look cold." Marissa took another step back. "No, thank you. I just want to find—" "That's what family is for," the woman interrupted. "To keep you close." Her smile widened by a fraction. Too wide. A man stepped out from behind a lamppost, a police officer in an old brown sheriff's uniform. Hat tilted low. Hands folded behind his back. He looked normal at first glance, until he spoke. "You shouldn't be out here alone," he murmured, voice low and strangely muffled. "There are accidents that happen in the dark." Marissa froze. The sheriff began walking toward her, footsteps too steady, too controlled. "How about we bring you to the station?" he said. "We can look up your sister's name." His smile was the same as everyone else's. Perfect. Frozen. Wrong. She backed up until her shoulder pressed into the cold glass of the diner window. "I'm fine," she whispered. "I just want to look around on my own." The sheriff's smile didn't budge. "We don't let people wander," he said calmly. "It's not safe. I can take care of myself." He tilted his head. "No, you can't." Marissa's heart pounded so hard her ribs hurt. This wasn't a friendly town. This wasn't a living town. It was something else pretending to be one. The blonde woman giggled lightly. "Don't be so stubborn. We'll introduce you to our families. We have so many of them." A shadow loomed from the hardware store doorway. A thick-shouldered man stepped out, mid-40s, flannel shirt, jeans. But his skin looked stretched, tight, like it had been pulled over a model, not grown naturally. "We have plenty of rooms," he said warmly. "A whole community waiting for you." More people emerged. A group of teenagers. A mother holding a toddler whose head drooped unnaturally to one side. A little girl clutching a doll missing one eye. Every single one smiling. Every single one staring. A claustrophobic dread wrapped around Marissa's ribs, squeezing. She lifted her flashlight like a weapon. "Stop." The sheriff took another slow step toward her. "We just want to help you settle in." "I'm not staying." His eyes darkened, shifting from friendly warmth to something empty. Like someone had blown out a candle inside him. "No one ever wants to stay at first," he said, tilting his head. "But everyone belongs somewhere. And everyone belongs here." Marissa's skin crawled. Behind her, The diner door creaked open with a dry, groaning hinge. She flinched and turned. A child stood in the doorway. A girl around 7, wearing a red pinafore dress. Her eyes weren't black like the others. They were gray, pale, cloudy, almost human. The girl stared up at Marissa and whispered, "You shouldn't look for your sister." Marissa froze. "Why not?" The child's lips trembled. "She's with the family now." "What family?" The girl's gaze flicked to the sheriff. She stepped back. "Don't let them make you one of us." "She's frightened," the sheriff said, stepping forward. "Poor thing. We should bring her home." The girl flinched, hiding behind the doorframe. Something in her fear looked real, unlike the others. Marissa knelt slightly, voice shaking. "Sweetheart, what do you mean, one of you?" Before the girl could answer, the blonde woman clapped sharply, the sound echoing too loud in the stillness. "That's enough playtime," the woman said cheerfully. "Children say the silliest things." 2 men stepped forward from the street, blocking the child from view. When they stepped aside a moment later, she was gone. Vanished. Marissa's heart lurched. "We should head to the station," the sheriff said again. "There are forms to fill out." "No," she whispered. Her breath shook. Her flashlight flickered. She realized something terrifying. She hadn't heard a single real breath from any of these people since she entered the town. No exhale. No inhale. No fog in the cold air. They weren't breathing. The buildings around her felt like props on a stage. The townspeople felt like actors performing a script they'd repeated for decades. And she was the only one unscripted. "One last time," the sheriff said softly, "come to the station." "No." The smile on his face cracked. Just a tiny fracture along his cheek, like porcelain. He reached out his hand, and she bolted. She sprinted down the main street, boots pounding the pavement. The air didn't echo her footsteps. Even her own breathing felt muted. Behind her, the sheriff didn't shout. He didn't whistle. He didn't run. He just started walking, slow and steady. The worst kind of predator. She veered into a side street, houses lined in perfect rows, identical curtains in every window. A swing set sat in a yard, one swing moving back and forth even though there was no wind. "Marissa." Her blood turned to ice. The voice wasn't the sheriff's. It wasn't any of the townspeople. It was her sister. "Help me." She spun, chest heaving, searching the darkness between houses. "Trina?" "Over here." Marissa stumbled toward the sound, heart aching. "Keep talking. Where are you?" A shape emerged from behind a fence. A silhouette. Her sister's silhouette. Shoulder-length hair. Slight frame. Familiar posture. "Trina, oh my God." But the shape didn't move right. It didn't breathe right. It didn't sway. It just stood there, perfectly still. "Marissa," the figure whispered again, voice identical to her sister's, but just a hair too slow, like someone mimicking her from memory. She froze. "Say something else," she whispered. The figure tilted its head. "Come home." Marissa stumbled back. That wasn't Trina. That thing was repeating her sister's voice like a recording. The figure stepped forward, and its face slid into the light. It wasn't her sister at all. It was a woman-shaped shell, hollow eyes, mouth too wide, skin stretched thin, face frozen in a mimicry of Trina's features. Something inside the shell shifted. Something too tall, too thin. Marissa screamed and ran. She tore down the street, lungs burning, adrenaline pounding. Behind her, the mimic whispered her name again and again. Too close, too clear, following without footsteps. She burst into a backyard, vaulted a fence, scraped her knee, stumbled into another row of perfect, identical houses. Nothing looked real. Nothing felt real. Nothing felt alive. She collapsed against a mailbox, shaking. "It's okay." The voice came from her right. The girl in the red pinafore stood beside her again. "You can't stay here," the girl whispered urgently. "They'll give you to the family." "Who is the family?" Marissa gasped. The girl looked up at her, eyes trembling. "The ones who never left. The ones who never died." A soft humming began drifting through the streets, low, melodic, hypnotic. The girl grabbed Marissa's hand. Run. Marissa didn't think. She sprinted after the child toward the edge of town, toward whatever faint chance she had left. And behind them, the humming grew louder. Voices joining in. Dozens. Then hundreds. A single word woven into the drone. Stay. The copper taste of fear lingered in Adam's mouth long after the attic door slammed shut on its own. Dust rained from the ceiling in a delicate, mocking drizzle. For a moment he just stood there, his flashlight trembling in his grip, the narrow hallway around him groaning like the house was shifting its bones. He didn't tell Claire what he'd seen. Not the silhouette behind the attic insulation. Not the voice that whispered his name like it had been waiting years for him to return. He simply walked downstairs with that stiff, careful gait of someone holding too much inside. Claire noticed, of course. She always noticed. Adam, she said from the kitchen doorway, you look like you swallowed a ghost. He turned toward her, opening his mouth to reassure her, but the floorboards under his feet creaked 3 times in rapid succession. Frick, frick, frick. Claire's face tightened. What was that? Adam exhaled slowly. Old house. He hoped it was just the age of the place. He hoped it wasn't responding. But in his chest, something cold uncoiled. The house was listening. The first night. They tried to settle in after sunset, but the house made that feel impossible. Claire unpacked dishes in the kitchen while Adam stood in the living room, staring at the place where he'd swear the wallpaper had pulsed earlier. Now it lay flat, brownish yellow and cracked. But from certain angles, the pattern looked like stretched skin. He didn't say that either. At 10:14 p.m., the first incident happened. Claire was brushing her teeth when the bathroom door clicked shut behind her. But from the outside. Adam, she called, trying not to let panic seep in. Did you lock me in? No, he said from the hallway. It's not even a lock. You have to twist it from inside. I know that, she snapped, her voice rising with the scrape of old hinges. But it won't turn. Adam tried the knob. It refused to budge. It felt warm, too warm, like someone was gripping the metal from the other side. He pressed his ear to the wood. Something breathed. Slow, heavy. Claire heard it too. What is that? Adam didn't answer. He stepped back, raised his shoulder, and slammed into the door. Once, nothing. Twice, just a dull echo. The third time, the door flew open like someone had simply decided to let go. Claire stumbled out, shaking, her toothbrush still in hand. Adam, what's happening in this house? He didn't know how to tell her. He didn't know how to tell himself. Footsteps that don't belong. They lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling like it might start speaking to them. The wind outside moaned, rubbing tree branches against the siding in slow, scraping arcs. Around midnight, the footsteps began. Soft at first, then more deliberate. They came from the hallway, walking from the farthest end of the house toward their bedroom. Claire wasn't asleep. She was gripping Adam's hand so tightly it hurt. Say something, she whispered. About what? About the fact that someone is walking in our house. He forced a swallow. It's probably pipes. Or settling. You know old houses. The footsteps stopped right outside their door. Silence filled the space like water filling a tank. Claire's nails dug into his palm. Adam, do you hear breathing? He did. Worse, he recognized it. The same slow, heavy inhale he'd heard behind the attic insulation. A thick shadow pooled under the crack at the bottom of the door, as if something on the other side was standing so close its presence leaked through. Adam's heart hammered against his ribs. If the house had once been alive, it was remembering how to act like it again. Knock. A single knock on their bedroom door. Not frantic. Not threatening. Just patient. Like a reminder. You are not alone. Claire's breath hitched. Should we open it? No, Adam managed. Another knock. Softer. More deliberate. Then a whisper from the hallway. Not a voice. A wordless push of air through constricted space. A sound shaped like a question. Or a name. Adam. His blood froze. He sat up, clutching the sheets, and shouted, "Stop!" Everything went silent. The shadow beneath the door thinned, retreated, then vanished entirely. The hallway went dead still. After a long minute, Claire whispered, "Adam, how did it know your name?" He didn't answer, because deep down he feared the truth. The house didn't learn his name. He remembered it. The room they shouldn't have opened. In the morning, Claire insisted they leave, just for the day. Fresh air. Breakfast someplace normal. Anything that didn't smell like mildew and memory. But Adam had a strange reluctance to go. He told her they should unpack more. Settle in. Make the place feel lived in. But the real reason gnawed at him. Leaving the house felt like abandoning something that had been waiting for him. Something that didn't want to be left alone again. Claire grabbed the car keys. "Adam, please. This place is not right. I feel like the walls are watching us." He felt the same. Worse, he felt watched with recognition. Still, he forced a smile. "Let's check one more room. The guest room. Then we'll go." Claire hesitated. "Can't it wait?" 5 minutes. She reluctantly followed him upstairs. The second bedroom's door was swollen shut from humidity or something else. Adam pressed his shoulder against it while Claire held her sweater over her nose. When the door finally broke free and swung open, a wave of smell hit them so strongly Claire gagged. But not old food. Not damp wood. Something more organic. The room itself looked normal enough. Dusty, cramped, empty except for a broken dresser and a torn curtain. But the far wall. The wallpaper was darkened from moisture in a shape that shouldn't have been possible. A human silhouette. Not painted. Not mold. The darkened outline was the exact size of a person standing there. Torso. Arms by its sides. Like someone had been pressed against the wall so long their presence stained it. Claire stumbled back. "Oh my God, Adam, what is that?" He approached slowly. Every instinct screamed to stop, but something else insisted. "Look closer." Up close, the shape had layers. Different shades, like overlapping impressions. As if the figure had shifted positions over time, stepping forward, leaning in, tilting its head. One outline showed the head turned sideways. Another showed the arms lifted. Another had the shoulders raised, hunched like a creature instead of a person. Claire touched his arm. "Adam, we need to go." Then the wall moved. Just a ripple. A shiver. Like breathing. Claire shrieked, stumbling backward into the dresser, knocking an old cardboard box to the floor. Papers spilled out, pages yellowed, edges chewed by moisture. Adam crouched and lifted one. It was a deed. To the house. Dated 1913. The name of the owner was faded but partially legible. Then smudged into nothing. Beneath the name, a handwritten note in brown, barely legible ink. "The house takes shape after the one who speaks to it." Adam froze. Claire trembled. What does that even mean? He didn't know. But the wallpaper silhouette slowly bulging outward, like something inside the wall was pushing through, suggested one possibility. The house wasn't haunted by a spirit. It was haunted by a memory. A memory that wanted a body again. The house shows its teeth. They rushed down the hallway, nearly tripping on the uneven floorboards. But halfway to the stairs, a new sound stopped Adam cold. Whispering. Not voices, too soft, too blended. More like the house was speaking in unison with itself, multiple layers of sound weaving through the walls. Claire grabbed his sleeve. "Adam, ignore it please, let's go." But the house didn't want to be ignored. A picture frame on the wall tilted, then slammed to the floor, glass shattering. The whispering grew sharper, converging. Claire cried out as the floorboards beneath her feet bent downward, like something underneath was pushing up. Adam yanked her back just before a board snapped, leaving a jagged hole. From below, darkness pulsed. Not still darkness. Moving. Like dozens of fingers brushing the underside of the house. They bolted down the stairs. When they reached the bottom, the front door swung open, violently, banging against the wall as if the house was trying to throw them out. Claire didn't wait. She sprinted outside into the daylight, shaking from head to toe. Adam stepped out behind her, panting, heart racing. "Get in the car!" Claire shouted. But Adam didn't move. Because the front door, still wide open, made a noise. A soft, low, almost disappointed hum. Like it was sighing. Leaving already? Claire grabbed his face with both hands. Adam, look at me. We're not staying. We're not spending another second here. He nodded. Or tried to. But the house wasn't finished. A slow vibration hummed through the porch. The wooden boards beneath Adam's feet warmed. And something brushed his ankle. Cold. So curious. He gasped and jerked back. But the unseen touch followed. Claire screamed, "Run!" He snapped out of it and sprinted with her to the car. The moment the car doors shut, the porch boards buckled. The open front door slammed hard enough to crack its own frame. The house shuddered once, like an animal stamping its foot in anger. Claire fumbled the ignition. Come on, come on, come on. The engine turned. They sped off. Dust kicked up behind them. For several long minutes, neither spoke. The road stretched out in front of them, empty and silent except for the roar of the engine. Claire was first to break the silence. What is wrong with that place, Adam? He stared ahead, knuckles white on the dashboard. I don't know. Except he did. Deep in his bones. In the place where fear whispers truths no one wants to hear. That house had been waiting for someone. And not just anyone. It had been waiting for him. But leaving didn't stop it. They rented a small motel room 20 minutes away. Claire cried in the bathroom with the shower running while Adam sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the peeling wallpaper. Part of him hoped the house would feel distant now. But it didn't. It felt closer. Like leaving had angered it. At 3:09 p.m., Adam's phone buzzed. A known number. He almost ignored it, until the second buzz came. Then a third. Claire emerged from the bathroom, eyes red. Who is it? He didn't answer. Because the fourth buzz wasn't just a ring. It was a voicemail. The preview text chilled him. Voicemail, 003. Claire covered her mouth. Adam felt the world tilt. Because the voice wasn't a stranger's. It was his own. Recorded in a whisper. But warped, echoing, layered. Like he had spoken it inside a hollow throat. Claire backed away from him. Adam, what is happening to you? The phone buzzed again. A text message. No number. No sender. Just one line. Come back. You left me alone again. Adam's breath caught. Because the house wasn't speaking to both of them. It was speaking to him. And it was remembering something Claire had never known. Something he had never told her. Something from his past that he had buried so deeply he thought he'd forgotten it. But the house hadn't. It remembered everything. And it was done whispering. Adam didn't sleep that night. He didn't even lie down. He sat on the motel chair with the stiff patterned cushions, elbows on his knees, staring at the carpet like it might start moving. Because everything else felt like it was already moving. Shifting under the surface, pulsing with something he didn't want to name. Claire dozed restlessly on the bed, turning, whimpering sometimes. Every time she made a small sound, Adam flinched. Not because she startled him. Because he kept expecting the house to answer her. He kept expecting to hear a long, slow breath under the motel bed. Or behind the curtains. Or inside his own lungs. At 4:12 a.m., his phone buzzed again. He didn't touch it. He didn't dare. Claire stirred awake, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Adam, what time is it? Early, he whispered. She sat up, hair a tangled halo around her face. Did you sleep at all? He shook his head. Claire saw the phone on the table vibrating silently and stiffened. Don't pick it up. I won't. But the thing buzzing wasn't a call. It wasn't even a text. It was a voice memo. Auto-sent. Titled, Listen. Length 002. The motel room felt colder. Claire covered her arms. We need to block the number. It has no number. Then turn off the phone. It'll turn itself back on, he said quietly. You saw that. She had no answer. The previous night, he'd powered it off 3 times. 3 times it turned back on. And each time, a new message appeared as if someone, or something, was breathing right through the circuitry. Claire hugged her knees. Adam, I don't understand. Why would a house know you? He stared at his shaking hands. He wished he knew. He wished he didn't. The first memory. At sunrise, Claire insisted they leave town entirely. Adam nodded but never got up. He just kept staring at the motel carpet, brown and orange geometric squares, watching them blur like the patterns on the wallpaper back home. Back there, Claire paced the tiny room. Adam, we're not staying. We're not waiting. Pack your things, we're leaving. But Adam couldn't move, because something had shifted inside him. It wasn't just fear. It was recognition. Like the house had cracked something open in him, something he didn't know was sealed shut. You go, he whispered. I'll follow. No, Claire knelt in front of him. We're going together. I'm not leaving you behind. He shut his eyes, and a memory slammed into him so hard he jerked. A memory that wasn't supposed to exist. The flicker from childhood. He was small. 6? He stood in a dim hallway, toes cold against the floorboards. A woman's voice whispered in a room nearby. Adam, sweetheart? Come here. His heart hammered. He approached a door with peeling paint, white curling off in strips. The knob was warm. He touched it, and the voice whispered again, but this time, it wasn't his mother. The tone was wrong. Too deep. Too layered. Too hungry. Come in, Adam. Don't be scared. He pushed the door. Inside, darkness. Thick like fog. Something breathed. Something with teeth. Adam gasped awake, nearly falling out of the chair. Claire jumped. Adam, what happened? He pressed his palms to his eyes. I remembered something. Remembered what? He looked at her, throat tight. I think I've been in that house before. Claire froze. No, she whispered. Adam, you would have told me. I didn't know, he said helplessly. I didn't remember. How could you forget living in a place like that? Maybe it made me forget. The words should have sounded insane. But Claire didn't argue. Not after what they'd seen. Not after what had touched their ankles and whispered his name. The second memory. He tried to stand, but the room spun. He pressed a hand to the wall and a second memory hit him like a flashbulb. A man shouting. A woman crying. A door slamming so hard it cracked. His father's voice. We are not staying in this house another damn night. His mother's voice. We can't leave. Not yet. It won't let us. Adam as a child, crouched in the corner, hands over his ears. And behind him, in the darkness of the hallway, something crouched too, matching his posture, tilting its head the way he tilted his. Breathing when he breathed. A shape with no face. A shadow that wasn't just a shadow. And when he looked at it, it whispered without moving. Stay. Adam staggered back, slamming into the dresser. Claire reached for him. Adam, what did you see? My parents, he choked out. We lived there. When I was little. Claire's mouth fell open. Adam, where are your parents now? He shook his head slowly. I don't know. How can you not know? He swallowed. Because I don't remember past a certain age. My earliest memory used to be from when I was 9. Nothing before that. I thought that was normal. Some people don't remember early childhood. Claire's voice cracked. You think the house made you forget your parents? I don't know. But I remember now. We lived there. We escaped. And after that, everything before 9 just vanished. Claire grabbed her jacket. We need to find them. Maybe they can tell us what happened. But as soon as she said it, Adam's phone buzzed again. A new message. Just 3 words. They never left. Claire paled. No. No. Do not read into that. It's trying to scare us. But Adam wasn't sure. Because the message felt like a fact. Not a threat. The newspaper clue. Claire insisted on going to the local library. Old towns kept old records. And Adam needed proof of something before he lost his mind. They drove in tense silence, the sky overcast, the world too still. Like the house had sucked sound out of the air miles away. The librarian, an elderly woman with hair like static, gave them the microfilm machine and pointed to a dusty metal box labeled Southridge News Archives, 1984 to 1996. Adam's hands shook as he loaded the film. Claire hovered behind him. The screen flickered. Old paper scanned in faded black and white. They scrolled through town fair announcements, football team victories, obituaries of people who'd lived simple, quiet lives. Then Claire gasped. A headline crawled across the screen. Missing family still not found. Sutherland home abandoned. 1989. A cold wave washed over Adam. Missing family. Father. Mother. So, the article read, the Sutherland residence, long believed uninhabited, was reported occupied earlier this year by a family of 3. After months of strange complaints from neighbors, lights flickering at odd hours, unusual shadows moving in windows, the family disappeared without a trace. Investigations are ongoing. No bodies recovered. Claire pressed a hand to her mouth. Sutherland, Adam, that's the house's old name. He scrolled further. At the bottom, almost like an afterthought, a young boy was found wandering near the highway shortly thereafter. No identification. No memory. Authorities could not locate his parents. Silence fell between them. Claire whispered, trembling, that was you. He didn't deny it. He couldn't. Because beneath the article, a blurry photo showed a small boy wrapped in a blanket, sitting in the back of a police car. Dark hair. Wide hollow eyes. Looking directly at the camera. Looking exactly like Adam did at that age in his school photos. Something in his chest cracked open. The house hadn't just remembered him. It had kept him. It had taken his parents. It had erased his past. And somehow, it had waited for him to return. The house sends a warning. The microfilm machine flickered. The screen dimmed. Then a new image appeared, though nobody touched the controls. A photo of the house. The one they fled. Except this photo was different. The windows had faces pressed against them. Hands on the glass. Silhouettes staring out. One adult-sized. One smaller. A child-sized shadow. And in the doorway, barely visible, a shape leaning out. Like it was greeting the camera. Like it was alive. The librarian called from across the room. Are you two all right over there? Claire slammed her hand onto the machine's power dial and shut it off. The screen went black. Adam whispered, it knows we're looking. His phone buzzed. He didn't pick it up, but the preview text glowed on the cracked glass. Stop digging, or I'll take her too. Claire backed away, breath shaking. Adam, it's threatening me now. Adam's jaw clenched. I'm not letting it touch you. But another text appeared instantly. You think you can stop me? I raised you. Adam's heart nearly stopped. Claire whispered, we have to leave this town. Now. But Adam's phone buzzed again. This time with an image. A freshly taken photo. Of Claire. Standing behind Adam. In the library. Taken from only a few feet away. But no one else was in the library aisle. Claire's voice broke. Adam, we're not alone here. Claire, he whispered, gripping her hand, you're right. We're leaving. Right now. They turned to run. But standing at the far end of the aisle was the librarian. Still, silent. Staring at them. Her head tilted slowly. Too slowly. Too far. Like a puppet remembering the limits of its joints. And in a voice layered and wrong and echoing from her throat, she whispered, you came home once. Her jaw clicked. Her mouth stretched too wide. You will come home again. And behind her, far down the hall, something breathed. The librarian's neck shouldn't have bent that way. Adam couldn't scream, not because he didn't want to, but because his body forgot how. His throat locked, his heart hammered uselessly, and every instinct he had screamed at him to run, except his legs were trembling too violently to obey. Claire squeezed his hand so hard her knuckles whitened. Adam, she whispered, voice almost gone, what is wrong with her? The librarian took a single step forward. Her shoes clicked too loud on the laminate floor, like the sound echoed from inside the walls. Then she stepped again. Each movement jerked, stiff, puppet-like, accompanied by a soft groaning sigh, as if her bones remembered pain differently than humans did. Adam dragged Claire backward. Stay behind me. You can't protect us from... She stopped herself, choking on the word. From whatever this was. The librarian's jaw trembled. Her mouth opened in a shaky, wide grin. But the voice that came out wasn't hers. It wasn't a voice at all. It was a layered murmur. like something speaking through her from inside a well. Like the house whispering through her lungs. You left your room unlocked, Adam. Adam's blood turned to ice. Claire whispered, Adam, what room? What is it talking about? But something in Adam remembered. A hallway wallpapered with faded flowers. A small white door with peeling paint. His hand reaching up to twist the knob. A shadow inside the bedroom rising to meet him. His breath caught. The house had a room for me. The librarian tilted her head further until it creaked. Your room is waiting. Her fingers twitched. Her left eye blinked, but the right eye didn't move at all. A long, wet tear slid out of it, too slow. Adam reached behind him and shoved Claire toward the library exit. Go! The librarian wasn't at the end of the aisle anymore. She was right in front of him. Close enough he could see her pupils dilate to unnatural sizes. Close enough to smell dust and rot on her breath. He stumbled back. The librarian whispered, her voice cracking in two directions at once. The door missed you. Then her eyes rolled back entirely, showing only white. Books on the nearest shelves began to tremble. One by one, they tumbled off and hit the floor. Thump, thump, thump. But none sounded like books. They sounded like fists pounding on a wooden door. Like something trying to get out. Claire grabbed Adam's arm. This place is alive. Move. She yanked him down the aisle just as the librarian's spine twisted sharply with a sickening pop. She collapsed onto the carpet, limbs bent at wrong angles, chest heaving, like she was trying to crawl toward them even though her bones didn't agree. Adam didn't look back again. They sprinted through the library, past shelves warping and bending as if pushed from behind, past a study table where a lamp flickered in a perfect heartbeat rhythm. The front doors were only 30 feet away. 20. 10. Claire pushed against the metal bar. The door didn't budge. She shoved with her shoulder. It stuck. Adam threw himself into it. Nothing. Behind them, they heard the librarian dragging herself across the floor. A wet scrape. A fractured moan. And layered beneath it, a familiar sound. A slow, heavy creaking. Like hinges. Hinges Adam hadn't heard since he was a child. He felt it before he understood it. The house wasn't behind them physically. But its door was. Opening. Waiting. He pressed harder on the exit. Claire, push. She did. Still nothing. But then Adam's phone buzzed violently in his pocket. He didn't want to look. But something in him knew he had to. He pulled it out. Text displayed. You can't leave through their doors. Only mine. Claire saw it. Her eyes filled with terror. The building shuddered. A framed picture on the wall, an old photograph of the town's founding members, fell off and shattered. The librarian's voice croaked from across the room. Adam? Home. He grabbed the metal bar again, slammed his shoulder into the glass. This time, the door crashed open as if something outside had pulled it from the other side. The two of them spilled out into blinding sunlight. The door slammed shut behind them. The moment it did, the entire library fell silent. Completely. As if nothing had happened inside. As if the building held its breath. Claire stumbled forward, gasping. Adam, we can't stay here. Not in this town. Not another minute. He nodded, shaking so badly he nearly dropped the keys. But he couldn't stop thinking about the text. Only through my doors. The house wasn't just haunting him. It was hurting them. Guiding them. Calling him like a lost child. And every message felt less like a threat and more like a parent's impatience. They drove out of town fast enough the tires screeched. The highway stretched empty ahead, lifeless, as though the world beyond Southridge had paused, waiting to see whether they made it out. Claire kept looking over her shoulder. Do you think it's following us? Adam clenched the wheel. I don't know. His phone vibrated again. He didn't look. He let it buzz until it stopped. 2 minutes later, it buzzed again. A voice message this time. Length, 013. Claire whispered, Adam, don't listen to it. I won't. He deleted it without opening. Immediately, another appeared. Voice message. Length, 013. Same exact length. He deleted it again. Another appeared. Same length. Again. And again. One after another. like something re-recording the same phrase over and over. Claire covered her ears. Make it stop. Adam placed the phone in the cup holder and punched the gas harder. The road blurred. Trees whipped past. The buzzing finally stopped. He exhaled shakily. Maybe we outran. The car radio crackled on, even though it was turned off. Static filled the speakers. Then the static molded itself into a voice. Not human. Not electronic. Ancient. Patient. The voice of something that had waited for decades and could wait decades more. Little Adam. Claire gasped. The car lights flickered. You're too far from home. Adam slammed the radio button, but it didn't turn off. Static deepened. Come back. I saved your room. His hands slipped on the steering wheel. The car swerved. Claire grabbed it, helping straighten it. Adam, focus. The radio hissed, then spoke again, the voice crackling like wood burning. Your parents are still inside. Adam froze. Claire whispered, No, Adam, don't listen. But he couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Before he could stop himself, he whispered, They died there, didn't they? The radio hissed louder. They never left. And then, the radio clicked off. For real this time. Silence swallowed the car. Claire removed her hands from the wheel, shaking. Adam, this thing is manipulating you. It wants you back inside that house. Adam didn't answer, because he couldn't escape the one thought clawing up his throat. If his parents had never escaped, if they'd never left, then who had raised him from 9 onward? Where had he lived? Who signed him up for school? Who fed him, clothed him, brought him to doctors? His mind felt hazy, twisting in on itself. His memories from childhood to adolescence blurred like a smudged photograph. Claire saw his expression and grabbed his arm. Adam, look at me. He met her eyes. You have a life now, she said fiercely. You have a future. Whatever happened back then, whatever you lost, we'll face it without that house. We are not going back. He nodded, trying to believe it, trying not to think about the missing pieces of his life, trying not to think about the door that kept appearing in his dreams. 2 hours later, the car sputtered. Claire frowned. What's wrong? Adam checked the gauge. Full tank. The engine jerked. The car rolled to a stop on an empty stretch of forest road. Claire stared forward, shaking. It's doing this, isn't it? Adam didn't answer, because something outside the windshield caught his eye. A figure stood at the edge of the tree line. Still, motionless. Its silhouette curved with the wrong proportions. Its arms too long. Its head too narrow. Its outline familiar in the worst possible way. Claire whispered, Is that? Adam closed his eyes. Yes. It was the shape he saw in his childhood memory. The crouched figure mimicking him. Breathing with him. Waiting. Claire clutched the door handle. We need to run. We can't outrun it, Adam whispered. So what do we do? Adam didn't know, but his phone buzzed once more. He lifted it reluctantly. A location pin had been sent to him. No message. Just coordinates. Claire's voice trembled. Where does it lead? Adam swallowed. His throat felt full of ice. It leads to the house. Claire backed away from him as if he'd become dangerous. Adito, don't even think about. It has my parents, he whispered. You don't even know that. He wiped tears he didn't realize were falling. If there's even a chance. Adam, this is exactly what it wants. He nodded. I know. He stepped out of the car. Claire scrambled after him. Adam, wait. But he was staring at the figure in the tree line. It tilted its head. Welcoming. Almost excited. Adam whispered, I remember you. The figure straightened slowly, spine crackling like old wood. Then it stepped backward into the trees, not turning to walk, but receding like it was being pulled by invisible strings, inviting him to follow. Claire grabbed his hand with both of hers. Please, don't go. He looked back at her, torn apart inside. I have to see what happened. No, you don't. Adam, you escaped. People don't escape twice. But he had already made his decision. Not because he trusted the house. Not because he wanted to go back. But because, for the first time in his life, he understood. The house didn't just remember him. The house raised him. And now it wanted him back. He turned toward the woods. The sun began to dim unnaturally. The forest grew quiet. And from somewhere deep inside the tree line, a door creaked open. Long, slow, familiar. Adam took a step toward it. Claire's voice broke behind him. Adam, please, don't make me go in there alone. He turned to her, tears streaming. You won't. He reached for her hand. But before he could touch her, the forest swallowed him whole. And the door slammed shut. No one wanted to say it. Not Detective Mara, not Officer Lewin, not even the exhausted, trembling paramedic who'd been watching the house from the curb, but every single person standing outside 112 Ashbury Lane felt it. The house had woken up. The siding creaked even without wind. The windows sweated though the night was cool. The soil around the foundation shifted as if something underneath was moving, repositioning, preparing. Mara stood on the walkway beside Lewin, both staring down at the hairline crack now running across the cement path. It hadn't been there an hour ago. It's settling, Lewin said, though his voice held none of the confidence the words needed. Settling houses don't do that, Mara said quietly. Not that fast. Not that deep. Because beneath the crack was something darker, like the concrete had split to reveal a vein of shadow. It wasn't darkness from the absence of light. It was darkness like a living thing. Lewin cleared his throat. We have to go back in. Mara didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the front door. It hung open by an inch, just as it had before. Just as it had when it opened on its own. Just as it had when it seemed to wait for someone to cross the threshold. Before Mara could speak, the paramedic jogged up, breath shaky. You might want to see this, he said. We found something. He held out a small black and white photograph. Cracked at the edges. Glossy surface warped with time. It showed the basement stairs of the house, cleaner, newer, decades younger, but unmistakable. At the bottom stood a man. A man with no face. No blur. No damage. No motion streak. Just no face. Smooth skin. Mara looked at the paramedic. Where did you get this? It was inside the ambulance. I didn't bring it there, and... He stopped. His eyes darted to Lewin. I swear on my life, he whispered, I didn't bring it. It wasn't there before. Lewin took the photo from Mara. The moment his thumb brushed the surface, a sharp static crackled in the air. The lights on the street flickered. The house's front door creaked another inch open. Mara swallowed hard. We need backup, Lewin said. We had backup, Mara replied. They left. Because they had. Every patrol car that arrived earlier grew restless within minutes. Officers kept glancing at the shadows under their feet. Some refused to get out of the car. One physically gagged when he stepped onto the property, like something unseen pushed air down his throat. They didn't say the house was alive. They didn't have to. Everyone felt it. Mara shoved the photograph into her jacket. We go in, she said, before it gets worse. Lewin half laughed. What's worse than this? The front door groaned again, like it heard him. Mara didn't answer. She only walked forward. And the house welcomed her. Inside, the warm amber of the hallway lights had gone cold. Every bulb flickered faintly, pulsing in uneven breaths. The air was stale and heavy, like it hadn't moved in hours. Like the house was holding its breath. Mara scanned the living room. The photographs from earlier, those that had rearranged themselves, those of the missing owner's face turning away, his eyes avoiding the camera, were gone. All except one. On the wall above the mantel was a single photograph that had not been there before. It was a picture of the basement door. Mara approached it slowly. Under the frame, someone had written a date in shaky pencil. 1979. The year the owner disappeared, Lewin whispered behind her. Mara nodded. And then the photograph changed. Right in front of them, there was no dramatic distortion. No sudden tearing. No cinematic glitch. Instead, the shift happened with the slow, natural movement of real life, as if the photo wasn't a printed image at all, but a miniature window showing something in real time. The basement door in the picture was now slightly open. Mara stepped back, pulse racing. That wasn't. I know, Lewin said. I saw it. The house gave a low creak beneath their feet, like a throat clearing, like it was answering. Mara turned toward the real basement door. It was closed, perfectly still, perfectly normal. No motion, no draft. "Check the photo again," she said. Lewin lifted it. The picture now showed the door fully open. At the bottom of the stairs stood the faceless man, closer than before. His head was tilted upward, not in surprise, not in curiosity, but in a way that suggested he had been waiting for someone to look at him. Mara's throat tightened. "Is he moving?" "No," Lewin blinked. "At least, not yet." The floor beneath them vibrated softly. Just once. Like a heartbeat. Mara pressed her palm to the wall. It thrummed beneath her skin. Faint, rhythmic, disturbingly organic. "Okay," she whispered. "The basement." Lewin stared at her. "That's your idea of okay? You have a better one?" He didn't. They moved down the hallway, each step slower than the last. The basement door waited at the end, paint peeling, handle rusted, thin beam of light flickering from the bottom as if something behind it was pacing. Mara turned the knob. It was warm. Not warm like metal in sunlight. Warm like skin. The door swung open by itself. The light on the staircase flickered wildly, spinning and stuttering as if the bulb was shaking. Mara stepped onto the top stair. The air was wrong. It wasn't cold. It wasn't hot. It was too still, like the air wasn't being breathed by anything, not by her, not by Lewin, not by the house. And then a breath moved past her ear. Not her own. Not Lewin's. A slow, quiet, whisper-soft exhale. Mara froze. Lewin whispered, "You heard that, right?" "Yeah," she said. "I heard it." The basement exhaled again. Only this time, it was louder. And it came from the dark at the bottom of the stairs. They descended slowly. The wooden steps groaned under their weight, long, low groans that sounded more like protest than structural strain. Halfway down, Mare felt the air shift. The stillness was gone, replaced by something wet. A humidity that didn't come from pipes or leaks. A moisture that felt exhaled. When her boot reached the cement floor, the basement lights hummed, flickered once, and then steadied. For the first time since they entered the house, the lights stopped flickering. The basement was bright. Too bright. The concrete walls were clean. The shelves were perfectly organized. No dust. No grime. No age. It looked nothing like a room abandoned for decades. "This isn't right," Lewin whispered. Mara pointed to the far corner. A chair sat there. Wooden. Simple. Facing the wall. As if someone had been told to sit and stare into emptiness. Mara approached it. Something dripped onto her hand. She jerked away. A drop of moisture slid down her skin, clear, cold, and smelling faintly of earth. She looked up. The ceiling was pulsing. Not sagging. Not leaking. Pulsing. In slow, rhythmic waves. As though something behind it was breathing. Mara backed away slowly. "We're leaving," she said. But the basement disagreed. A long crack tore across the floor. The concrete split like paper. A gust of air blasted up from the opening, hot, damp, and alive. The lights snapped off. Total darkness swallowed them. Not blackness. Nothingness. A void deeper than shadows. Footsteps. Not theirs. Not above them. Not below. Footsteps in the dark, circling. Mara grabbed Lewin's arm. Flashlight. He fumbled, clicked it on. The beam illuminated the chair. Someone was sitting in it. The faceless man. Closer than the photograph. Closer than the memory. Closer than they had ever imagined. He had no eyes, no nose, no mouth, just smooth pale skin stretched too tightly over a skull-shaped surface. But he was breathing. His chest rose. His chest fell. And each breath was the same warm, damp humidity that filled the room. The man stood. Slowly. Bones cracking as if he hadn't moved in years. He turned toward them. Mara pointed the flashlight at his face. And then, he reacted. Not with motion. Not with sound. But with a ripple across his smooth features. A ripple like someone trying to form a face. Trying to decide whose face. Something whispered behind them. A voice. Familiar. "Mara." She spun around. No one was there. Then the voice came again. Come back. Her blood ran cold. It wasn't a stranger's voice. It was her brother's. Her brother who died 5 years ago. Lewin grabbed her shoulder. Mara, don't listen. This is what the house does. This is how it. Before he finished, the faceless man stepped forward. He raised his hand, and in one smooth movement, he pointed toward the crack in the basement floor, as if inviting them, as if asking them to follow, as if he had been waiting since 1979, waiting for someone to breathe with him. The crack widened, the house inhaled, and the basement exhaled. The basement floor didn't break open all at once. Flexed, like skin, like something underneath was shifting, rolling, waiting for the chance to rise. Mara held her flashlight tightly, its trembling beam cutting through the thick, humid dark. The crack at their feet pulsed, pulling apart, squeezing shut, widening fraction by fraction as if it were tasting the air. Lewin whispered, "It's not a hole, it's a mouth." He didn't say it jokingly. His voice held no sarcasm, no panic, just the hollow tone of a man who had run out of lies to comfort himself with. The faceless man stood beside the crack. Not speaking, not moving, not attacking, just waiting. Mara forced her voice steady. "We're going back upstairs." She didn't take her eyes off the faceless man, not yet. Move slowly. No loud sounds. No running. Lewin nodded. They stepped backward, careful, deliberate. The crack followed them. Not physically, no debris rolled across the ground, no chunks of concrete split away, but the pulse beneath the floor shifted with their movement, as though something below was sliding after them, tracking them, learning them. A sound, a soft, wet clicking, like eyelids cracking open after being sealed shut. The crack widened again. Not enough for a person, but enough for something else. Mara's stomach twisted as she saw it. Under the concrete was not soil, or pipes, or earth. It was wet, smooth, reflective, like the surface of an enormous eye. Lewin's breath hitched. "Tell me that's a trick of the light." "It's not," Mara whispered. The basement floor trembled again. The crack widened just enough for the thing beneath to shift, slow and gelatinous, catching the light like a pupil contracting. Lewin whispered, "It can see us." The faceless man shivered. His chest rose. His chest fell. And the huge eye beneath the floor mirrored the motion, expanding subtly, contracting, breathing with him. The house wasn't alive. The house was part of something that was alive. Something enormous. Something buried. Something with eyes. The floor convulsed. A ripple of movement surged under the concrete, shaking dust from shelves, rattling old jars, making the chair scrape across the cement floor with a long, grating cry. Mara pulled Lewin toward the stairs. "Move. Now." They climbed quickly, careful not to slip on the trembling steps. The faceless man did not follow. He simply watched. If watching was something his featureless face could do. Halfway up, Mara's flashlight flickered. The bulb buzzed, dimming. "Mara," Lewin whispered. "Don't stop," she said. "I'm not. But look." He pointed down. The faceless man had tilted his head. Not at them. At the stairs. Like he was listening to something. Behind him, the floor's crack pulsed. Then another sound rose from beneath the concrete. A faint, rhythmic thud. Slow, steady, heavy. A heartbeat. Too big. Lewin's voice broke. "The whole foundation is alive," Mara finished. She reached the top of the stairs and grabbed the basement door, only to find it ice cold and heavy. Much heavier than before. She shoved it. It didn't budge. "Mara, hurry." She shoved harder. The door groaned, resisting her. A whisper curled through the dark behind them. "Come back downstairs." Her brother's voice. The same tone he used when he was 10, calling her to come see the fireworks from their porch. The same warmth. The same inflection. The same everything. Lewin grabbed her arm, pulling her from the door. "Ignore it. It's not him." The whisper came again, louder, clearer, closer. "Mara, you're leaving me." Her throat tightened until breathing felt painful. She shoved the door again. This time it flew open. They stumbled into the hallway, slamming the door shut behind them. Mara locked it. Deadbolt. Then pushed a side table against it. Then a chair. Lewin slid down the wall, shaking. The floor looked at us. Mara leaned her head against the wall, panting. I know. It breathed. I know. It called your name. Mara opened her mouth to say something, but then the sound began. A soft, slow tapping. Not from the basement door. From underneath the floorboards of the hallway. 3 taps. Fuzz. 3 taps. Fuzz. Like knuckles gently knocking. A finger flicking against the underside of wood, trying to find the weak spots. Mara's voice was barely a whisper. It's following us. Lewin stood shakily, gripping the wall for support. What do we do? Burn the place down? Call the chief? Mara didn't respond. She was staring down the length of the hallway, because the photographs had returned. All of them. Neat rows lining the walls. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. More than before. Faces she did not recognize. Children, adults, elderly, families. Most smiling, some frowning, all perfectly normal at a glance. The eyes were gone. Every person in every photograph had no eyes. Smooth skin. Blank sockets. Nothing. Except one photograph. Placed dead center, framed better than the rest. It wasn't old. It wasn't damaged. It wasn't faded. It was Mara. A picture taken today. From inside the hallway. Captured from the angle of someone standing exactly where she stood now. But where her eyes should have been. Smooth skin. Lewin saw it too. We need to get out now. She backed away from the wall. But the floor responded to her panic. A deep, rolling groan echoed beneath the boards. Not a structural sound. Not settling. Something was trying to rise. The hallway lights flickered rapidly. The bulbs buzzed. Shadows twisted along the walls, stretching into impossible shapes. Long arms reaching, bending, crawling. The floorboards began to bulge upward. Not in one place. All at once. Across the entire hallway. Like dozens of eyes were trying to open. Lewin grabbed her arm. We run. Right now. Another bulge rose under her feet. Splintering wood creaked. Mara inhaled sharply. The bulge blinked. A seam opened. A fissure. A split. Just wide enough to reveal the slick white surface beneath. Another eye. And another. And another. The floor was covered in them. Hundreds of blinking, awakening eyes beneath the thin wooden boards, pushing up through the flooring, tasting the air with their slow, wet blinks. The house wasn't seeing them. The house was studying them. Mara, Lewin whispered, the stairs. They ran. As they sprinted toward the front door, the floor rippled in waves, eyes opening everywhere, blinking up at them. The boards broke. Splintered. Snapped. Something wet and white surged up through the cracks, like tendons or pale muscle, sliding across the wood in long, searching strands. They reached the front door. Mara twisted the knob. It didn't move. Come on. Lewin pulled it. It won't open. Behind them, the hallway floor tore open with a shriek of splitting wood. A tidal wave of pale, living tissue surged forward, eyes blinking along its surface like stars in a grotesque sky. Mara slammed her shoulder into the door. Nothing. The pale mass reached the base of the stairs. It rose. A mountain of seeing flesh. Blinking. Breathing. Remembering them. Lewin shouted, Mara, the windows. They ran left. The mass lunged. Not fast, but inevitable. Mara grabbed a vase from a side table and hurled it at the front window. Glass shattered outward. They vaulted through, landing hard on the cold grass. Mara rolled, gasping, staring back at the house, just in time to see the front doorway warp out of shape, as if something enormous pressed against it from inside. The siding bulged. The walls groaned. The roof timber creaked. The house was trying to stand up, trying to crawl out of its foundation, trying to open the eyes in its floor and look out onto the world. Mara scrambled to her feet. Lewin, run. They sprinted toward the streetlights as the ground beneath the house trembled again. The front door burst open. And something inside the house. Not with a mouth. Not with a face. But with the sound of wood splitting open in a long, delighted sigh. The house wasn't just alive. The house was waking up. The grass under Mara's palms felt like the first real thing she had touched in hours, cold, rough, grounded in a world that still obeyed rules. But behind her, 112 Ashbury Lane was rewriting reality. The house groaned like a creature stretching after a long hibernation. Wood cracked, bricks shifted, the ground trembled beneath its weight. A deep, wet suction sound pulled from its foundation, as if the earth itself didn't want to let go. Mara yanked Lewin to his feet. Move. Don't look back. They sprinted across the lawn, lungs burning, hearts hammering, desperate to get to the street. The nearest street light flickered overhead like it, too, was afraid. Behind them something slid. Not walked. Not crawled. Slid. A dragging, wet, dragging sound. Like something enormous peeling itself free. Mara risked a glance over her shoulder. The house was rising. Not fully. Not like a creature standing tall. But pushing upward in little jerks, as if the thing beneath its foundation was bracing on its elbows, lifting itself from a long burial. A spill of pale, tendon-like strands slithered from under the house. Muscle, or root, or something halfway between biological and impossible. Each strand glistened in the moonlight. Each one carried rows of small, blinking eyes along its length. The foundation wasn't stationary. It was spreading, reaching, tasting the air, finding them. Lewin. Mara grabbed his wrist. Into the street. Now. They leapt over the curb just as a crack tore through the lawn. Soil ripped open. A thick, white appendage burst upward like a breaking wave, smashing through the grass they'd just been standing on. Lewin gasped, stumbling. It followed us. It actually, Mara, what is this? She had no answer. She wasn't sure answers existed. They reached the middle of the street. The house shuddered behind them. Guttural vibrations rumbled through the asphalt beneath their shoes. The pale tendrils stretched farther, slithering over the lawn, dragging with them pieces of dirt, wood, and old piping. The foundation was no longer a structure. It was a body. Mara turned toward the nearest working streetlight. Under there, go. They stood inside its halo of light, panting. The warm glow stuttered as if the bulb sensed what was coming. Do you think it won't cross the street? Lewin whispered. Some things can't cross boundaries. Water, salt, light. Mara shook her head, shaking both fear and hope from her mind. This thing isn't following rules. It doesn't care about boundaries. Then what stops it? I don't know. The street light flickered again. Then again. It went out. Total. Instant. Something shifted behind them. Something huge. Something curious. Mara's blood turned to ice. Run. They moved again, north toward the neighboring houses. Porch lights clicked on. Motion detectors flared to life. A dog barked somewhere in the dark, and 112 Ashbury Lane responded. Another tremor shook the ground. A slab of foundation cracked free from beneath the house. Only it didn't fall. It held itself up, supported by a mass of eyes and pale fibers that lifted, flexed, and pushed the slab forward like a limb. The house wasn't following them. Its foundation was, dragging itself across the lawn with all the patience of something that had waited decades for this moment. Lewin cursed under his breath. Mara, if this is bigger than a crime. Bigger than a case. It's still our problem, she snapped, grabbing his jacket as they ran down the driveway of the nearest house. Keep moving. They pounded on the door. Hello. Mara shouted. Open up, please. Lights flicked on inside. A man peeked through the blinds, confused, irritated. It's almost midnight. What? The ground behind them groaned. The man's eyes widened. What the hell is that? The street vibrated under all three of them. Mara pushed the man aside as the door opened. Get back inside. They slammed the door shut, locked it, deadbolted it. Every instinct Mara had screamed that a door would not stop what was coming, but instincts were all she had. The man stumbled backward. What is that? What is outside? Lewin braced himself against the front window. Something that shouldn't exist. Outside, the street cracked as the house's foundation dragged itself across the pavement. Eye stalks, if that's what they were, ran their blinking surfaces along the concrete, tasting it, remembering it, learning it. More of the pale mass slid free from under the house, unfolding like a creature shedding its shell. Mara grabbed the man's shoulders. Is there a basement? Yes, but... We're not going down there, Lewin interrupted immediately. Agreed, Mara said. The man stammered. Why? What do you need? Who are you? Mara didn't look at him as she approached the front window. We don't need your basement. We just need time. Time for what? What is that thing? Outside, the house's tendrils explored the streetlight pole, brushing over it, curling around it with curious precision. It bent slightly under their weight. Then slowly, silently, the pole was pulled downward. Metal groaned, screeched, and snapped. The entire streetlight toppled, smashing into the asphalt. The thing beneath the house dragged the fallen light toward itself, as if reclaiming something that offended it. The man gasped. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my! Mara grabbed him again. Listen to me. We don't have long. You need to get your family upstairs and stay away from the windows. Do not go near the floor. Do not go near the walls. But why the walls? The house outside answered him. The pavement split open with a thunderous crack. A surge of pale flesh punched through the street, dozens of eyes blinking wildly from its surface, searching, scanning. The man's voice broke. Jesus Christ! Mara stepped back. It's expanding. It's spreading, Lewin corrected. No, Mara whispered. It's emerging. The house shuddered again, wood bending, nails popping, windows bowing outward like lungs trying to exhale. Mara lifted her radio. Dispatch, this is Detective Mara Doan. Code red, multiple code reds, send all units. Repeat, all units. Static. A quiet whisper. Come back. Her brother's voice. Not from the radio. From the wall behind her. She froze. Lewin saw it too, the slight bulge in the drywall. The faint tremor. The quiet, wet sound of something brushing against the interior of the house they were in. Oh hell no, Lewin breathed. The tendril moved along the inside of the wall. Testing. Pressing. The man shouted, get it out of my house. We can't. Mara grabbed him. Upstairs. Now. They ran. Behind them, the drywall began to split. A single, blinking eye pushed through. Not large. Not small. Just human-sized. Human-like. But it did not belong to anything human. The man screamed. Lewin dragged him up the stairs. Mara took one last look over her shoulder. The eye blinked up at her. Slowly. Affectionately. Like it recognized her. Remembered her. Wanted her back. She slammed the bedroom door upstairs just as the tendril burst fully through the wall downstairs. The house groaned. The street trembled. And the thing beneath 112 Ashbury Lane finally began to pull the rest of itself into the world. The first sign wasn't the screaming, or the sirens, or the police cruisers skidding onto Ashbury Lane. It was the ground. The entire street dropped an inch. Just 1 inch, barely enough to see. But Mara felt it. That sudden, unnatural sag beneath her feet, like the earth took a long, exhausted breath and forgot to lift itself back up. Lewin felt it too. His hand gripped the windowsill of the upstairs bedroom. The whole block is sinking. No, Mara whispered. Not the block. She looked out the window, past the panicked man and his shaking family, past the flashing cruiser lights, past the smoke rising from broken power lines, to 112 Ashbury Lane. Or rather, to the thing that had once worn the shape of a house. It no longer looked architectural, or rigid, or dead. It was a torso now. A massive structure of pale, glistening tissue bursting through the cracked shell of the old house, lifting itself inch by inch from the earth like a creature peeling itself out of its grave. And the town wasn't sinking. It was being pulled down. The creature beneath the house was dragging the soil, the pipes, the roads, and the houses toward itself, like a massive, slow-breathing whirlpool made of living earth. Lewin swallowed. It's trying to pull everything underground. No, Mara said, voice thin. It's trying to come above ground. And the town is in its way. A police cruiser screeched to a stop outside. Chief Ramos jumped out, gun drawn, expression wild, trying his best to understand something no training manual had ever prepared him for. "Detective," he shouted up at the window. "What is that thing?" Mara leaned out just enough for him to see her face. "Chief, listen to me. Everyone needs to evacuate." The ground dropped again. This time several inches. Cars rocked. A mailbox fell over. A lamppost groaned and tilted sideways. Ramos stumbled, grabbing the side of his cruiser. The hell was that? An earthquake? No, Mara said. It's worse. A deep, subterranean moan rippled through the street. Not like shifting rock. Not like gas lines rupturing. This was biological. Wet, slow, hungry. And then, the pavement outside the house erupted upward. A huge flood of pale tendrils burst through the asphalt, flinging broken chunks of road into the air. The creature's body, its true body, was breaching the street. One tendril shot toward a police cruiser, wrapping around the rear bumper. Metal crumpled like paper. The cruiser was pulled backward across the street, scraping and screeching as though dragged into a sinkhole. Ramos fired his gun. Let it go. Let it go. The bullets dug into the pale flesh. It didn't bleed. It just stared. Every small eye along its surface turned toward Ramos at once. Hundreds of them. Blinking. Contracting. Focusing. The chief staggered backward, gun clattering from his hand. Jesus Christ. The creature released the cruiser. The car slid into a growing fissure in the street, vanishing with a metallic clang. Mara turned from the window. We need to move. Now. Downstairs? Lewin asked, horrified. No, she said. Roof. The man who lived in the house stared at her. The roof. It won't reach us up there, not yet. The floor trembled beneath them. A deep crack ran along the baseboard. Something behind the drywall pressed forward, an eye, or a tendril, or both. Go! Mara shouted. They ran. They burst through the attic hatch, climbing the ladder as quickly as possible. The homeowners, husband, wife, teenage son, scrambled behind them, panicked breaths echoing in the narrow space. Mara shoved open the attic window, then kicked the screen loose. Cold air rushed in. Roof tiles glistened beneath the moonlight. Her plan was terrible, reckless, desperate, but the room below was already splitting apart. A tendril pushed through the floor. Lewin climbed out onto the roof first. Give me your hand. Mara helped the family out onto the shingles. The house groaned below them, timber popping, foundation sinking. In the distance, other homes began to sag as well. Another street cracked open. A mailbox fell into the earth. A fire hydrant snapped free from its pipe, spraying water into a widening chasm. The entire neighborhood was collapsing. Lewin looked at her, voice shaking. Mara, how big is this thing? She didn't answer, because she finally understood. It wasn't that the creature was huge. It was that the house was only the smallest part of it. A tiny fraction. A fingertip. The rest was still underground. And now it wanted out. Below, Chief Ramos and 3 officers scrambled toward the neighboring lawn. One officer fired at the mass surging from beneath the street, a shotgun blast echoing through the night. The creature reacted. Not with pain. With interest. It turned. A ripple spread through its surface. All its small blinking eyes swiveled toward the sound. The tendrils stiffened, quivering. Then they pounced. The nearest officer was grabbed instantly, lifted into the air and yanked downward with horrifying speed. His scream cut off as he disappeared into the creature's folds. Ramos shouted his name. Jenkins! No, no, no! Another officer fired. Useless. Mara shouted down from the roof. Chief, get away from the street. It's using sound. Ramos looked up at her with dawning horror. It's hunting us? The creature answered by sending a tendril slamming into the side of a parked car, flipping it effortlessly. It was hunting. The ground shook again, harder this time. The entire house tipped slightly. Shingles crackled beneath their feet. The mother screamed. Her son clung to the chimney, trying not to slide off the slanted roof. Lewin grabbed him, anchoring him. "Mara," he shouted. "We can't stay here. What's the plan?" She scanned the horizon. Fire trucks, police cruisers, and ambulances were arriving at the end of the block, but none could get close. The street had split open into a jagged canyon of shifting, breathing flesh. Beyond that, the rest of the town was dimming. Streetlights flickered off one by one. Transformers blew. Power lines sagged. The creature's emergence was affecting everything: gravity, electricity, vibration, maybe even memory. Ashbury Lane was dying. "What's your plan?" Lewin repeated. Mara whispered, "We bring it back down." Lewin stared at her. "Into the ground." "How?" She swallowed, throat dry as dust. "It came out because something called it. Something inside the house. Something old. Something connected." "The diary?" Lewin asked. "No," Mara said. "The basement. The place where the floor had opened like an eye. Where the faceless man had stood. Where her brother's voice had whispered to her. The creature wasn't just rising. It was responding. If they could cut that connection, sever whatever was guiding it upward, maybe the town wouldn't be dragged under. "Mara," Lewin whispered, "you want to go back inside that house?" "Not want," she said. "Have to." A massive fissure ripped across the street, widening like a wound. The creature surged upward another foot, its tendrils lifting the half-shattered house higher. A new shape began to appear beneath it, pulsing. Not a foundation. Not a torso. A back. Lewin's voice cracked. "If it keeps rising, it'll take the whole town with it." "I know. And it's getting bigger by the minute." "I know. And you think we can stop it?" Mara looked at him. Not with certainty. With grim, bone-deep resolve. "I think we're the only ones who can." He closed his eyes, exhaled, opened them again. "Then we finish it." The house below them lurched violently. Shingles slid. The chimney cracked. A tendril punched through the downstairs window. But Mara didn't look down. She looked at the roof underneath her feet, the one part of this nightmare that was still solid. "For now." "Mara," Lewin said quietly, "how do we get back into the house without being eaten?" She pointed toward the one thing the creature had not yet broken. "The attic. Specifically, the attic vent." He stared. "You want to climb down through that?" "Yes." "You're insane." "Probably." He swallowed hard. "Okay." The entire house groaned again. Time was running out. The creature was rising. The town was sinking. And if they didn't cut the connection soon, Black Pines would crumble into the earth and vanish forever. Mara tightened her grip on the vent cover. "Let's go," she said. And together, they climbed back into the dying house. Marissa had imagined that escaping Black Pines would feel like bursting out of deep water. Like fresh air and sunlight and the taste of freedom. Instead, it felt like dragging herself through glue. The moment she, Deputy Cole, and little Noah crossed the edge of the tree line and stepped onto the cracked two-lane highway, it was as if the air thickened. The sky dimmed. The forest behind them creaked and leaned as though straining to pull them back by their shadows. It wasn't done with them. Not even close. Cole half-carried Noah, who clung to his neck like a terrified koala. Marissa staggered beside them, her throat raw from hours of breathing dust, mold, and whatever it was that had poured through the cracks in that house. They didn't look back. Not because they didn't want to, but because they knew that if they did, they would see things following that didn't need legs. The trees whispered their names. Somewhere far behind them, a door slammed, though there were no houses left standing. Marissa gripped the strap of her backpack tightly, the way she used to cling to Trina's hand as a child. Her sister's journal slapped against her hip with every step. "We're not safe yet," Cole murmured, voice low, shaky. "Don't stop. No matter what you hear." Marissa nodded, but her lungs burned. Her legs screamed. She wasn't sure how much longer she could push on. The town wasn't letting them leave easily. Black Pines wasn't just a place. It was a mouth, and it hated to spit anything out. They followed the road north, The same direction Marissa and Trina had traveled the day the video was filmed. Only now the pavement seemed wrong, wavy, distorted, as if heat was rising off it even though the air was cold. Cole glanced at Noah, who was trembling but conscious. "You good, kid?" Noah's eyes darted everywhere. It's still talking." Marissa swallowed. "What's talking?" "The ground." Both adults froze for a split second. Then the asphalt beneath them shifted like something enormous was rolling beneath it. Cole cursed. "Move!" They sprinted, not toward salvation but toward distance, toward anything that meant they weren't standing directly above whatever was waking. The pavement buckled behind them with a sound like cracking knuckles. A long, jagged rupture tore through the road, splitting the double yellow line in half. Marissa screamed as a black void gaped open. But nothing came out. Instead, a town dying, imploding under its own secrets. They didn't slow down until the trees thinned and the faint outline of a rusty metal gate appeared ahead, the collapsed remains of an old Forest Service checkpoint. Cole exhaled in relief, too soon, because as they crossed under it, the rusted metal jolted violently, ringing like a struck bell. Noah's head snapped up. It woke it up. Marissa spun around. The forest behind them was no longer a forest. It was a wall. A vertical wave of black pine trees, their trunks twisting, their branches braided together unnaturally as they lurched forward, not walking, but leaning, toppling like dominoes trying to fall on them. Cole gripped Noah tighter. "Run. Run now." They hurtled down the road, past the curve where the map claimed the town of Black Pines didn't exist. Past the isolated pull-off where Trina had filmed her first panicked clip. Past the place where time went thin and the air ate sound. The trees kept chasing. Not physically, not roots ripping themselves up, but the shadows stretched after them. Too long. Too fast. As if the entire forest were trying to catch their heels. Marissa's vision blurred. She wasn't sure if she was hallucinating from adrenaline or if the sky truly was bending, stretching like liquid. The clouds churned inward, spiraling in the same shape she'd seen carved into the basement floor of the farmhouse. The symbol. The footprint. The one in Trina's drawing. Black Pines wasn't holding them. It was rotating around them. Like they were still inside it. Like they had never left. "No," Marissa whispered. "No, no, no." Cole grabbed her arm, steadying her as she stumbled. "Keep going. Look, up ahead." A sign emerged through the trees. "Welcome to Riverdam, 8 miles. Real town. Real map. Real place." Marissa felt tears sting her eyes. "We're close. We're really close." The sky flickered like a dying light bulb. Noah whimpered. "It's angry." They ran harder. For the next 10 minutes, Marissa heard nothing but her ragged breathing, the pounding of feet, and her own heartbeat echoing in her skull. The air thickened again, pulling at them like invisible threads trying to drag them back. A sound split open the air. A vehicle engine. Marissa thought she was imagining it until headlights rounded the bend. A highway patrol SUV. Cole waved both arms wildly. "Hey! Stop! Help!" The SUV braked so hard the tires screeched. A uniformed officer jumped out, hand on his holster. "What the hell, Cole?" Marissa didn't recognize the man, but Cole clearly did. "Barry," Cole gasped, doubling over. "Thank God. Listen, we need to get out of here. Right now. Call the station. Call everyone." Officer Barry stared at Cole, then at Noah, then at Marissa. He blanched. "What happened to you? You look like... Jesus Christ, it looks like you crawled out of a mine collapse." "Black Pines," Marissa said, trying to catch her breath. "It's still there." Barry blinked slowly. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Black Pines burned down decades ago." "No," Marissa snapped. "It didn't." Behind them, the forest creaked. Barry froze. "What was that?" Cole's voice dropped to a whisper. "Get us in the car." Barry didn't argue again. He shoved them all into the SUV and floored it, tires screaming against pavement. Marissa slammed the door shut and twisted around to look through the rear window. The trees had stopped moving, but their shadows hadn't. They stretched across the road, almost touching the back tires, like a giant hand reaching. The further they got, the shorter the shadows became. Black Pines wasn't chasing. It was receding, letting them go. Or so she thought. Until the radio crackled. "Barry, do you read? We're getting interference." Static swallowed the rest. Cole stiffened. That's the same frequency interference the station picked up when. The radio shrieked. A woman's voice ripped through the static. "Marissa!" Marissa's heart stopped. "Trina!" It was Trina. Marissa let it. The radio burst into a scream so raw it cut straight through bone. Barry yanked the volume knob, but the sound didn't lower. It grew louder, vibrating the glass, rattling the dashboard. Noah covered his ears. Marissa's hands shook uncontrollably. "Trina? Trina? Where are you?" Then the scream abruptly stopped. The radio went dead. Barry swore and slammed his hand on the dashboard. What the hell was that? Marissa stared forward, eyes wide but unfocused. She's still there. Cole's jaw tightened. Or something using her voice is still there. Marissa bristled. Trina is alive. Cole didn't contradict her out loud. He didn't have to. They didn't stop driving until they reached the parking lot of the Riverdam police station. Relief washed over Marissa in a dizzying wave. People, lights, noise, reality. But when Barry stepped out to get help, Noah tugged Marissa's sleeve. "They're still watching us." She knelt. "No one followed us, sweetheart. We made it out." Noah shook his head violently. "No, not people." He pointed past her. Marissa turned. At the far edge of the parking lot, the streetlight flickered. The shadows beneath it swayed slightly, though there was no wind. One shadow was taller than the lamppost itself, and it was leaning toward them inch by inch. "Cole," she whispered. He turned, saw it, and went white. "Oh God!" Barry reappeared with two more officers, holding blankets and first aid kits. They froze mid-step when they saw the shape looming at the edge of the lot. "What is that?" one officer stammered. "It followed us," Marissa said numbly. "It crossed the boundary." "That's not possible," Barry muttered. "It can't leave the forest. It can't leave." The shadow took a single step. A step that made no sound. Cole grabbed Marissa's arm. "Inside. Now." They rushed into the station. The heavy doors slammed behind them, locked manually and electronically. Officers scrambled, shouting questions, grabbing radios, reaching for weapons. Marissa collapsed into a chair, chest heaving. Cole paced back and forth. Noah hid his face in his hoodie. But the shadow didn't try to break in. It didn't need to, because the station lights flickered. Twice. Then every light went out at once. The station plunged into darkness. Someone cursed loudly. Guns clicked. Radios crackled static. Marissa's breath hitched. This was wrong. This wasn't the town reaching out anymore. This was the thing inside the town. A low vibration shook the floor. Then, in the dark, a single whisper threaded through the air. "You left something behind." The lights flicked back on. Everything was normal, except the front door was wide open. And Noah was gone. "Noah!" Marissa screamed, sprinting outside. Cole chased after her, shouting for backup. Officers fanned out. Flashlights cut across the empty street. The monster was gone. No tall shadow. No unnatural movement. Just silence. Cold, heavy silence. "Noah!" Marissa yelled again, voice breaking. A faint echo answered her. Not a child's voice. Something lower. Older. Then her phone vibrated in her pocket. Hands shaking, she pulled it out. A new video notification. From an unknown number. She tapped it. The screen showed Noah standing alone in the middle of the Black Pines main street. The one that didn't exist. And behind him, towering over the buildings, was the tall shape she had only seen in reflections. The shape that had leaned toward them. The shape that had followed them. The shape the whole town bowed to. Noah looked straight into the camera. Eyes wide. Terrified. "Marissa, it wants you to come back." The video ended. Marissa dropped the phone. Cole whispered, "Oh God." Marissa's voice was barely a breath. "It didn't try to keep us. It let us go. She looked up, eyes hollow. Because it wanted something to follow.